Good morning. Unlock the transformative power of yoga with connected warriors and discover how to thrive with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Join us as we unveil an inspiring journey of one individual's triumph over adversity, transforming a life-altering challenge into a powerful capability. Would love for you to prepare to feel like you have a heart full of hope and a mind buzzing with possibility. We have an amazing guest. But first, I am Trina Myers, your host, Miss Elite United USA, the Zebra Queen, and Legacy Maker. And today, my guest, Tisha Downing. Tisha, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm originally from Levittown, Pennsylvania, and I have been married for 24 years. And I've married a Navy sailor, and he's moved me across country, and we have ended up in Culpeper, Virginia. I am the mother of 5 children, and now they are all grown and are giving me grandbabies. So now I have 4 amazing, beautiful little grandbabies. And I am a dog mom of 2 and a grand doggy mom of a few also. So I've been living a full life and I just enjoy my family. And now I am teaching yoga full time because, after your kids grow up, you're like, what am I going to do with my life? So I found yoga was
Absolutely.
my way.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like we have a lot in common. I can't wait to just dive in and let our audience know about those commonalities. I know we don't have enough time for everything today, but at least we, have a couple of topics that we've decided to share with everyone. So thank you so much for joining. And today's Royal Buzz is your go-to podcast that's buzzworthy on pageantry, advocacy, and positivity, where Hive meets Hype. Listen to the magic one story at a time. So we have the commonality of the Ehlers-Danlos, and I love that you have taken this pain point and turned it into triumph. Can you tell us a little bit more about Connected Warriors?
Yes, I actually heard about it through my brother-in-law, who was also in the military, and he knew I was going through yoga teacher training. So as I was finishing up my training, he told me about Connected Warriors, which he was taking out in California. And Connected Warriors is an organization that offers trauma conscious yoga for free to active duty service members, veterans, first responders, and their family members. So I wanted to give back because being a military spouse, I know what we go through and what, as a former 911 dispatcher, I also know what first responders go through. So this was right up my alley. And I knew I wanted to give back to all those who have given to others. So when I became certified yoga instructor, I went and contacted Connected Warriors and became a trauma conscious certified yoga instructor. And I've been doing that since 2019 and I enjoy it very much. So that's
Wow.
how I got started.
I never realized that component and that connection to
Mhm.
the military. I knew that you did this for military, and I myself was born and raised in the military and was married to prior military. So that is fascinating that they have this program and that you took a step further to be
Mhm.
able to connect others.
Right. And now my daughter, who was in the army, she was medically discharged because we found out she also has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that was the reason she got discharged. And my son, he's in the army and he's still serving. He's out in Colorado. And I've had family members, I mean, tons of them that were in the military. So to me, this is just where my heart lies. It's giving back to the community, and it's just something that I feel very passionate about.
We'll talk a little bit more about the trauma conscious part of it here in just a moment, but you provide your yoga services online, which
Yeah.
is something a little bit different. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, we right now we work with the VA up in New York City, and it's a chair yoga class, which a lot of people don't think you can get a good workout in a chair, but you really can. A lot of times we wind up sweating, we can get a lot of good stretches in, and it's basically for a lot of people who can't get out. These veterans that we help, which they can have some people with any body part missing, with any type of mental disorder, and people don't understand that you can actually help people through yoga, and it helps you connect your mind, your body, and your spirit in a way that you never thought you could. And that's what helps people get in touch with themselves a lot more. And that's why I enjoy it and enjoy seeing people thrive and feel a different connection that they never thought that they could. And that's why I think it's amazing to help people. And
Wow.
even through virtual yoga, people don't think you can get that connection, but as I mean, they're in the comfort of their own home. And a lot of times you feel a lot safer, especially when
Right.
you're teaching the trauma conscious yoga. That's where a lot of people feel safer in the comfort of their own home.
Well, and it kind of gives them a way to connect to the outside world
Mhm.
without having the struggle of getting outside. Sometimes, whether it's military PTSD or individuals like us, I'm fortunate that I have not gotten to the point where I need a mobility aid. But there are others who have Ehlers-Danlos who do. And so that provides them another outlet.
Yeah. And I also have taken what the skills that I've learned through Connected Warriors, and I do it to teach other people who do have Ehlers-Danlos because we've suffered trauma, medical trauma. I mean, I'm sure knowing what I've gone through just to get diagnosed, that's very traumatic. Having people tell you what you're feeling is all in your head, or maybe you're depressed because of the pain you're feeling, or you're too young for that, or that can't be happening to you. That's very traumatic. And
Yes.
so that's why I do a lot of what I do. And I offer free yoga for Ehlers-Danlos patients because we've gone through trauma and we
Yes.
don't realize we're having that trauma and that builds up in our body. And that can cause a lot of extra pain that we don't need to carry on top of the pain that we have in every day. So
Now,
that,
how with virtual, I haven't had the opportunity to be blessed to
mhm,
attend one of your classes yet. I think they're typically during the time that I'm working with a client. Yeah, for me, I actually tore my shoulder, my bicep, practicing yoga.
mhm,
That's how I initially tore it because I don't realize the hyper flexibility. I mean, I know I'm flexible, but I can't visually see it.
exactly.
And so I don't realize that I'm overstretching.
So what I do when people first meet, sometimes we just practice sitting correctly or we practice standing correctly, trying to engage the muscles and not rely on our joints. It took me a while as well when I first started learning yoga and how to when I found out that I was hyperextending, I went to my teachers and I said, okay, I need your help with telling me where I'm going beyond my range. So once I learned where my range was, it helped me to learn where other people's ranges were, to tell them how to sit properly, because we know we can pop something out just by getting up too fast.
Yes.
I did that actually a couple of days ago. But so we sit there and I tell people how to sit correctly. And then once we work on that, we will stand correctly. And you don't realize that you're hyperextending your back. You don't realize you're hyperextending your knees because we're so used to standing that way.
Right.
And for many people, they're like, I feel like I'm going to fall. I'm like, but you're not going to. But our muscles are
Interesting.
so weak because we're relying on our joints. So I teach them how to engage their muscles a lot more. And sometimes that takes 2 to 3 classes just to teach people how to engage their muscles.
Wow.
And
That's
that,
interesting. Out of that, I recall in cheerleading and gymnastics,
mhm,
it was cool to be the flexible one, and during the yoga, when I first started doing yoga, it was nothing for me to be able to just do these moves and even go into a split and be where I'm flat on the ground essentially, and thinking, okay, I'm mastering this,
exactly.
but in reality I'm actually doing more damage.
So that's why people need to learn how to work with their alignment, the proper alignment. And then when you're engaging the muscles, that's when you feel like that's the muscle. And you're like, oh, that's something different. I've never felt that before. And then once you start engaging the muscles and using proper alignment, you realize you're not going past your joint because because we know our muscles are so tight.
Yes.
And so we're trying to lengthen the muscle and not the joint.
Actually been sharing, I know that you've seen a couple of them,
Mhm.
some physical therapy that I've been going through to help with my head tremor because my head will shake left and
Mm.
right, like I'm
Okay.
telling you no. They spoke exactly of that, and just really trying to engage my neck muscles in a neutral position. And I'm like, but I look silly, because it's like you tuck your
Yeah,
head back and your chin down.
ears over your shoulders.
Yes. And it's like, but I feel like I look silly.
I know it's very difficult. And people who are used to hyperextending everything, they feel like they're just not doing it correctly.
Yeah.
Or they feel like they're looking, like you said, look funny. And it's amazing when I do get people in the class and they're like, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. I'm like, but you're doing it right.
Right. Wow.
It's really a different sensation.
So I suppose that even just somebody who doesn't have Ehlers-Danlos, you probably still see that in individuals
Mhm.
because we're not trained.
Especially with people who sit at a desk all the time, they're usually sitting like this or they're hunched over. So trying to get people to pull their shoulders back because as we get
Yeah.
older, what do we see people do? Hunching over.
Yeah.
And then you lose the space between your neck and your shoulders. And then that's why you get that hunched look and you're walking like this. And so I'm trying to always tell people pull your shoulders up, back, and down. So you get that length between your shoulders and your spine and your neck to have that long dancer's neck as you see when they're the ballerinas and things. So, and it works. You just have to remember it. Just when we're on stage, we have to, I know when I'm on stage, I have to concentrate trying not to hyperextend my knees, to hyperextend my back. So
Right.
people don't even realize when we're competing the things that we have to think in our mind just so we don't hyperextend something and so a knee doesn't dislocate or a shoulder doesn't dislocate. It's very difficult when we're competing in pageantry trying to think of all these things on top of if we're asked an on-stage question.
Right, right. Yeah,
And that brain fog
yes,
is never good.
yes, all that comes together. I know. I've had my hip and my ankle
Mhm.
hyperextend many times to the point where I had given up competing just because it's exhausting. We're in pain every day. I usually tell people my average is 3 to 5. That would probably be more of maybe a 7 to a 10 to somebody who doesn't have pain on a regular basis. And so when, you're in competition mode, it's, you're psychological as well as physical, and the two of them together, and you're stressed because you want to perform. And so it adds to that stress and increases that pain level.
Mhm. Yes.
So going back to that trauma conscious yoga, if you could tell us a little bit more about that, and would that be something that would be helpful for women who are or girls that are competing in pageantry?
But with the trauma conscious yoga, we focus on the wording because we never want to tell somebody what to do because we don't know what their trauma is. So we always want to give them choices. The verbiage that we use is would you like to try? Or I invite you to. Or maybe you want to see how it feels to lift this arm. Because we don't want to tell people what to do because we don't, like we said, we don't know what their trauma is. So we just tell them to feel the sensations in their body and at all times keeping them in control so that they never feel like they're out of control of anything that's going on in their body. And even if we're doing it in person, we make sure that they can be able to see where the exits are. They know where all the exits are. If they need to look behind doors, they're more than welcome to check behind the doors. And we as teachers are not allowed to come off of our mats. So I don't know if you've ever been in a yoga class where the teachers are walking around.
Right,
We are
right.
not allowed to do that because we don't want to startle anybody.
Okay, so this is for a true
Mhm.
PTSD experience.
Yeah. Because I mean, you don't
Okay.
know what anyone's going through. I don't want to, if someone's in a child's pose or even a forward fold, I don't want to come up behind them or even next to them and startle them.
Right.
So we stay on our mat. So even if we have to get off, say we see someone's at the door or someone's about to hurt themselves in a pose, I have to announce I'm about to leave my mat and I'm going to go over here. And I make sure everybody has heard me and acknowledge that I'm leaving my mat.
Wow, what an amazing service to be able to provide for individuals who are sensitive
Yeah.
to their surroundings like
And
that.
there's never any touch at all unless we see somebody is about to physically hurt themselves. But we specifically, there's no hands-on touching, period.
Wow.
So it's very sensitive to whatever somebody is going through. And if someone needs to just sit there and sit on their mat, but they need to be around people, then that's fine. But
Hmm.
sometimes people just need to feel the sense of others in the room, but they don't feel like they need movement at that time. So I tell people, if movement is what you need, then feel free to move in a certain pose, or if you need stillness, then stillness.
Hmm.
And I want everyone to understand that yoga is your journey. And like, you're not trying to look like me as the instructor, you're not trying to look like the person next to you. It's
Right.
your journey. Just like I tell my husband when he's practicing with me, he's like, well, I can't do what you do. I said, have I ever once asked you to do what I do? He's like, well, no. I was like, exactly. This is your journey. This is your practice. I said, stay on your mat and do what you can do in your body.
It's like stay in your own lane, but instead you're saying stay on your own mat.
Yeah, because everybody's body is different.
Right.
Some people may have a rod in their knee. Some people have hip replacements. Some people have knee replacements that give them certain physical limitations. So there's different ways that people need to move that's more comfortable for them.
You had briefly shared with me prior to coming on here that you also are involved in a new opportunity. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's through the Alzheimer's Prevention Foundation. And I found this out through Yoga Alliance. It's a wonderful, since my grandmother has Alzheimer's and my grandfather passed away from it. It's called Brain Longevity Teacher Training. And basically, it's through 4 pillars that we trained for about a year. And it's to reduce the symptoms of Alzheimer's. And it's a yoga movement based and with nutrition and with certain type of meditation, and it's been scientifically proven that it can reduce the symptoms, and if you continue to start early enough you can prevent the symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia. So
Oh,
this is something
wow.
that I'm really interested in, and being able to teach in my further classes and maybe open something up and help others who maybe even have a history of it. It's even if you're genetically disposed to it, you
Hmm.
should be able to, if you practice this and live by this, even with your diet and physical fitness and follow the 4 pillars of it, you should be able to reverse the symptoms or prolong the symptoms.
Wow. So, what a vast area that you were able to take
Mhm.
this gift of being able to teach yoga and share it with Ehlers-Danlos, PTSD, military. And now you have a fourth component with the dementia
Mhm.
component.
Yes.
That
And
is so exciting.
And even though I know a lot of people with Ehlers, like me and you were speaking earlier, we don't have issues right now to where we need mobility devices or we're not wheelchair bound or bed bound. And there are some people with Ehlers-Danlos that have that, but
Right.
you can still practice yoga even from the bed. And a lot of people are like, how can you do that? Yoga is more than just movement, it's breathing, it's
Mm.
meditation, and things like that can help you. And a lot of people think, well, I can't do that. I have arthritis. I have arthritis. The longer you sit still, the worse their arthritis gets. So I keep trying to tell people just a little bit of movement can help your body physically and it can help your mind as well. So there's different ways to practice yoga than just practicing the poses, or as we call them, asanas. There's mental, there's spiritual, there's physical, there's so many different ways that can benefit your body.
With all this that you have going on, and I know myself having Ehlers-Danlos, there's the spoon theory.
Yes.
And for those who aren't aware of that, I have briefly spoken about it different times, but as a reminder, the spoon theory is just a way to balance out your day and not overdoing it.
Mhm.
So if you have 10 spoons in a day and you assign, let's say, for example, or I have to work with a client today or this morning. I have
Mhm.
back to back meetings and then recording this podcast,
Right.
going spending time with my grandkids,
Yeah.
baseball game. So I have to say no at some point
Mhm.
and have boundaries. And so those of us in the chronic illness or rare disease community, we're very familiar with the spoon theory
Mhm.
just to be able to have that balance. So How do you continue to volunteer with all these challenges?
Well, I try to give myself a day or two between certain things, especially when I do compete. I will give myself an extra couple of days after the competition before I will go back to work. So I also have purchased something called the Visible, which you wear on your arm, and it monitors your heart rate and things like that. And it tells you, okay, you've done too much. You need to sit down for a few minutes. So that will tell me, okay, I need to sit. So I sit, take a few minutes time for myself. I may meditate for those minutes or do a breathing exercise. And then I will get back up and do some work. And then if it tells me, okay, sit your butt back down again, I will sit back down again. So there's been times where I don't listen to it. And then I have to, my body will say, oh no, you're going to sit down. But
Right.
I do have to take those certain times where I have to be like, okay, I can't do anything else today. I'm just resting.
Sure.
So I've
And
become a little bit better with that, which I'm sure you
mhm.
have too, where you like,
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten to the point where I don't ever say that I'm doing nothing
mhm,
because laying down, binge watching a movie or TV show or whatever is doing something. It's resting for my body. And that is just as important as getting other tasks
it is.
completed.
And my husband has really been good with staying on me about doing nothing because he'll see it in my face and he just looks at me. He's like, go upstairs. You're tired. He's like, I'll finish the rest of the dishes. He's like, go and lay down. And as much as I don't like to say he's right, like, okay, I will go lay down. So I will literally
Right.
like so I've learned a lot more of self-care, even because giving back, you have to take that time for yourself. You just really
Absolutely.
do. So I've learned how to really take the time for myself to take with me teaching. I'm able to make my own schedule. So if someone says, "Hey, can you cover for me here?" I'm like, "No, I can't.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but I can't." I said, "But I can take it the next day, but I just can't do it today."
Sure.
So I've learned to say no because no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
No, period.
And good for you.
Yes.
That is awesome. That's something that it takes time
Mhm.
to learn how to be able to say that. And that's, like you said, it's all about self care.
Yeah.
And, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't help others.
Yeah. That is true. And even when I'm doing schoolwork, I have a timer. I work for 20 minutes. When that timer goes off, I will stop and get up and walk around, take a break, come back. So you just have to find those little things that work for you.
And, that's so true. And that's regardless if you have a chronic illness or
Mm.
rare disease. I think that is key. Start taking care of their bodies before they realize
Yes.
any damage or issues that they've had. Because if you take care of something, just like an item that you purchase, a
Mhm.
car, whatever, if you take care of it, it's going to last a lot longer. Unfortunately, yeah, there's those of us who have these rare diseases that there are things out of our control, obviously. However, if we do the things that we can, like resting when we need to, or drinking water as much as we, whatever is appropriate for your body type or your height and weight, and just keeping up on that. Those
Yeah.
are things that are so important for everyone.
And I recently had to get a handicap placard for my POTS. And at first I didn't want to, but I had to do it. And I am very thankful that I did and that my doctor had mentioned, why don't we just go and get you one?
Right. Now, I'm glad that you brought up POTS. I actually was going to ask you that when you had mentioned about the heart rate. I too have POTS, and it's very common with Ehlers-Danlos, along with other rare diseases. The audience, even though I have posted out about POTS, but just as a reminder, can you share, excuse me, with our audience a little bit about what is POTS?
Basically, well, for me, when I stand up, you get that head rush. And it's basically because your blood pressure drops. And then you either get, sometimes you faint. I used to do that when I had anemia on top of POTS. And sometimes your heart rate will just, you have heart palpitations for no reason. You get really tired, even more than normal. And then on top of that, having chronic fatigue syndrome does not help. But you just, It causes a lot of gastrointestinal issues, which I'm finding out a lot.
Yes. Yes.
And it causes more brain fog, and you're just tired more. And it takes a lot out of you. Sometimes it causes breathing problems. Sometimes you just sweat. I don't know if you started that, like weird sweat sometimes,
Not so
and hot
much
and cold.
anymore, but I did. Yes.
And mine gets triggered by heat, or when
Mhm.
I'm just really overwhelmed. Stress will really cause me to have a lot of lightheadedness symptoms. Not like, even if I'm not sitting down, if I'm stressed out a lot and I'm standing, then I feel like I'm going to fall over.
Right.
Spots can hit you in very different ways.
Right. And I know it's different from person to
Right.
person. I've only passed out once, and the second time, um, I almost passed out and then realized once you recognize that feeling that overcomes you, then it's like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to get some water. And, what I educate people about is, you can drink a gallon of water, but if you don't have added electrolytes in it, it's not going to do you any good but to send you to the bathroom all day. So adding the appropriate electrolytes for what you need, have found that to be
And
very
I
helpful.
carry some in my purse. I even carry some almonds with me when I know I need to have a little bit of extra salt. Even I don't like the taste of salt. So it's very difficult for me to get the salt intake in.
Oh, I'm like, add it more, add it
I'm
more.
not a big
I
salt person. So I do like to carry these little electrolytes I can just squeeze into any drink. And I don't,
hmm
doesn't change the flavor of it, but it adds the
right,
electrolytes. But
sure,
it's very difficult because you don't know when it's going to hit sometimes.
right,
Sometimes it is from just standing. Sometimes I get stressed and it comes out of nowhere. But I've learned to read the signs.
yes,
And that's the most important thing when you have it, to know your body and what causes it and what brings it on.
right,
But it's very
and
difficult.
and
But
I
getting that
think
handicap placard was the biggest helpful thing, because walking a long distance for me in the heat is what really triggers mine.
it does mine as well. We went to a car show over the weekend, and it's like, I have to go into the air conditioner. I'm
Mhm.
going to pass out. It's like
Yeah.
one or the other. I prefer to be in the cold air condition.
The cold for me makes, then I can't think when I get real cold because everything starts to
Right,
hurt.
right. Not too cold, but
And then the
better than the
Raynaud.
heat.
Do you have
I
Raynaud's
do.
also?
Yes.
It hurts so bad.
Yes.
It hurts.
I haven't had a real big flare with it in a while. Of course, I still get the colored fingertips.
Mm.
Not the pain from that is not as bad as it used to be. And I think a lot of this is because I sought out, I went to probably 20 different physicians
Mm.
before, I had one that listened and said, okay, let's do this other blood work. And once we found the immune deficiency and started getting that treatment, it's like everything else started to fall into place, and being aware of the POTS and the Ehlers-Danlos and all of those things. Even though there's no cure for any of these, there are treatments that you can do for self-care, on top of any type of medications that you may need. But I think that's just the key, is just being aware and listening to your body.
And that's what people don't understand. There is no cure. So we just have to treat the specific thing that arises at the time
Yes,
and just bring awareness to it as much as we
absolutely.
can.
I know that we hadn't touched on this topic, but I want to bring a light to this because you started something really amazing in the pageant community, and it is a community for women who compete who have Ehlers-Danlos. And I have loved being a part of this group. I know it's small, but hopefully it'll grow. And it's a great support system or support group amongst us who understand the hypermobility. The my ankle sprained a week before going to nationals, and I had a boot on,
Right.
but just having that camaraderie amongst each other, knowing that we understand what's going on in pageantry and Ehlers-Danlos. So one, I want to thank you for starting that group. That was an awesome step forward.
Thank you. Well, I just figured that we needed it. I mean, there's so many more people and women queens with EDS popping up. And I'm like, why aren't we all together supporting each other? So I hope it will grow. And I need to be more active. It's just, I've been so busy, it's just enough brain fog.
Sure. Well,
I think people understand that in our group.
that's what we're there for, to
Right.
promote and help each other. And, I've stepped up a couple
Yes.
of times
Thank
and,
you so much.
try to help keep the engagement
Mhm.
going. That was one thing that I just wanted to encourage our listeners if they have Ehlers-Danlos, would like to be a part of that group.
Yes.
If you compete in pageants, we'd love to add you to that group, and Tisha can get you all set up with that.
Because we're always supporting each other.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to remind our viewers really quick, because I see we're coming up on the time to close this out. If you have questions for Tisha or myself, just put it in the comments and we'll make sure that we follow back up with you. If there is a question that is specifically to Tisha or me, you can just highlight us or tag our name in the comment so that we make sure that we answer those questions appropriately. So before we close this out, Tisha, is there any last thing that you wanted to share with our viewers?
Yes, if anyone needs some yoga, you're EDS recipient or connected warriors, just give me a call. We can hook you up and get you some free yoga.
Awesome. Well, it has been a wonderful experience to spend this time with you and help our audience understand a little bit more about Ehlers-Danlos. I'm so thrilled that you just dedicated this time for us today. And I hope our viewers felt inspired and learned a little bit about the inspiration behind our legacies that we both are leading. I don't want anybody to walk away feeling like, well, what, I didn't quite understand. So again, if they would like to follow you or me on social media, you can follow me at Miss Elite United USA, or you can also follow me on the Zebra Queen. However, most of my content right now is on the Miss Elite United USA. And how can viewers follow you, Tisha? How would you like them to follow you?
On Instagram, I am at Hypermobile Queen, and on Facebook, Tisha Downing.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this today. Thank you so much.
Well, good. I appreciate it. I know that little brain fog has been a little bit of a challenge for me today. So sometimes words get stuck, but it's been a pleasure. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and joining us. If anything resonated with you, or if you'd like to continue the conversation or be a guest on the Royal Buzz, you can go to my personal website, which is my marketing agency, at Creative, and Creative is spelled CRE, the number 8, TIVE, and then HQ for headquarters.com/RSVP. I would love to hear from you, and let's talk about how you can be a guest on the next show. You can RSVP for any upcoming events and learn more about the organizations and supporters of today's episodes, like the Miss United USA National Pageant System and Legacy Maker Academy. All right. Well, thank you all so much, and you all have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.